Hello, I'm Scott, and you're listening to Talking Utter Slot. Some folk wonder if he's real or just a figment of my imagination, but I met him and the podcast dog yesterday at a pub in deepest Berkshire, so he must be real. What's that? Is there any photographic proof? Sadly not. I only took pictures of my food. But he's here now. It's the Boogaloo Man himself.
Pedro.
In this edition of Talking Utter Slot, we'll be clarifying my confusion over who was the Magnet Man, wondering why someone has taken their slot car on a world tour, and getting excited about slot cars and the upcoming trip to Abergavenny. We've had a letter. Two, in fact.
Mailbag? Really? No.
Okay, more digital communications, but it's the thought that counts.
No.
The first was from a very nice man who came up to say hello to me at Orpington Swap Meet, whose name I had clearly forgotten when we recorded the show last week. Proving that he is indeed a very nice man, he wrote to me, reminding me of his name.
Saying, you didn't give me a name check, you...
No, actually, he titled it, said no need for a name check. But I think you deserve one, Philip. Thank you, Philip. You're a very nice man. So it was Philip. He's a very nice man. He also answered...
He's a very, very nice man.
He also answered...
Is that Monty Python? Sorry. Is that Monty Python? He's a very nice man. He's a very, very nice man.
No, that's... Well, yes, it's Life of Brian, isn't it?
Is it?
No, it's not.
The Messiah. Go on, sorry, I've interrupted you.
Not for the first time. Anyway, Philip also answered the question that I posed at the end of last week's show, hoping for a deluge of audience interaction. He was the only person who did, though, but we'll come back to that. The other correspondent was Phil Smith, organiser of the aforementioned Orpington Swap Meet. Phil corrected my confusion over the Magnet Zapper Man. I confused him with the chap who sold the cars, or whose cars we bought, who had all the magnets on it. It turns out that they share a surname, Secchi, but in fact two different and actually unrelated people, one called John and one called Tony. So apologies for the confusion, but clearly they were both into magnets in some way or other, but they were not the same person.
Is that something to do with Italian descent? I mean, Secchi sounds Italian to me. I don't know, maybe it's Spanish, but that sounds like it's in the genes. Certainly in the surname.
So there's a link between being Italian and a fondness of magnets.
My Italian is not that good. It's non-existent. Maybe Secchi is Italian for magnet.
I would say someone will write in and tell us, but I suspect they won't.
Is it that our audience, inverted commas, don't give us stuff? Or that we're deluding ourselves with an audience, and there aren't, in fact, two Americans listening in. Hello to the Americans listening in, if you are actually listening.
I think yes, we're deluding ourselves. That's definitely true.
That's clearly true. Yeah, no question.
No, there are people listening. There are people listening. I sense they're there. Yeah.
There's your mate at Orpington for starters.
Yeah. No, I think it's it's a growing, a growing, quiet, relatively shy cohort.
It's a slow wasting disease, is what you mean.
Not at all. Anyway, let's get on to you having a rant about something, because I know that you've got a few things to get off your chest.
Rants, or you mean just what caught my eye?
Well, but usually the same thing, to be fair.
Okay, yeah. I don't think there was anything ranty in what I wrote down in our pre. There was the Golf Scalextric Golf Pagani Golf livery. Come on, move on. I know it sells. Does that only sell? So that was what I thought. I looked at that thing and thought, it's a Pagani. How popular are they? And then it's in golf livery. I mean, I know Simon knows his onions and his golf liveries, and I'm sure that sells. But does it only sell in sort of international airport duty-free shops to tourists who'd go, oh, golf? Last minute present for the kid because someone's forgotten. They've gone on a business trip and they've forgotten that their kid needs a toy as a present. And so, oh, look, a Pagani in golf livery. That'll do. He likes Scalextric.
Well,
It's that or
I think
a thing of Toblerone, isn't it? From the airports.
Have you stopped now?
I have stopped now, yeah.
So,
I need a little sign that I can wave at the camera. This is a podcast listeners, so you can't see it. I need a little sign that says, I've finished now.
Well,
move on. You need one. Yeah, you need one that says, move on.
Shut up. I think, I don't think it's a while since you've been in an airport departure lounge, obviously, because I've never seen a slot car for sale in one, not even in Spain. But I think you've hit upon something. I think if there was a Toblerone fantasy livery slot car range, it would go down really well in international departure lounges. So, Simon.
No. You've confused the hell out of me. There was a Toblerone sponsored car, wasn't there? And a 908. Or am I making that
No,
up?
you're right. There was actually. Yeah. Well,
and NSR probably have made a model of it and put on decals for headlights. So we're back to that.
But no, we're talking about fantasy liveries. Anyway, I think to slightly retread where you went. So golf clearly is a good colour combination. People find it popular. I suspect, and Simon,
some people find
it popular.
Some people.
I think a company like Scalextric wouldn't be making multiple cars in golf livery if they weren't selling. And I suspect it's collectors of the livery. There's probably like the same as Coca-Cola or whatever, people who collect a certain brand name. And also, I think you're probably right, actually. There'll be auntie or uncle, what do I get the nephew for something? I don't know. I'll get a slot car, which one? They don't really recognise anything, but they might have seen Le Mans once and they went, oh, that blue and orange one, that looks familiar.
And these aunties and uncles are basically encouraging Simon to do these things, and they've got to stop. We've got to get aunties and uncles under control and stop them from buying this shizzle, because that's what it is, and Simon needs to stop making it. But I think Simon knows who his paymasters are, not me, because I still owe him £3, and he's quite happy to knock out the old golf liveries.
Well,
fair enough.
I think it's true.
Pays the rent, I'm sure.
Well, regular listeners, and I'm using plural optimistically, will remember the episode we did where we pretended that we ran a slot car company and said, what would we make? And his very kind comment after that was he wouldn't be taking up any of our advice. Which is why he's in the job he's in and we're not. So there you go.
And we're not.
We're
just attention-seeking middle-aged men who quite frequently forget where they are and put out a podcast. Talking of attention-seeking, that was the other thing that irked
me.
I think I may have sent you a link, but there's this fellow on Instagram who goes on his holidays and takes his Carrera Audi, some kind of DTM Audi, with him, and then takes pictures of it on the beach. I mentioned it before, but he's still at it, and he's in the Galapagos Islands at the moment. So there's pictures of a Scalextric's car, for want of a better word, it's a Carrera, beside a seal on a beach. What?
Not a seal,
and that is attention seeking.
I don't know what the collective for seals is, but there was at least 3 or 4 of them.
Flock.
I don't think it's.
Is it? Okay.
I don't think it's.
It's a flock of seals, isn't it? Oh no, it's a flock of seagulls. I apologise.
Anyway, he clearly travels widely, and the car seems to be in one piece. So he's obviously got the box.
No. So my theory is, my theory is he's been doing this a while, and the car's been beaten up because of the way that airport luggage handlers work, and he's actually got a stash of about 10 or so of these cars on a shelf at home. And when a car loses too many wings, mirrors, aerials, gets a bit scuffed up by the bag being thrown onto yet another carousel, he just pulls another one off the shelf and goes on his business trip / holiday and photographs another one.
Okay.
That's my theory.
Well, it's an interesting companion piece, because on Facebook, I think he only does it on Facebook. So the Japanese chap, Mr. Teranishi, hello, if you're listening. I don't think he is, but he takes his car. He does some great photographs. So he lives in Tokyo, I think, and he goes to a slot car club in central Tokyo, and he usually has lunch before or after, and he takes the most lovely photographs of his lunch with the car, and the car by a monument or a blossom tree, and then the car on the truck. And there's usually a set of 4 pictures, and it's lovely. Now, because I've been to Japan several times, I kind of recognise the vibe. But it's a nice thing. It's a
Hang on. Whoa.
yeah.
You recognise the vibe? What, the vibe of taking your slot car to lunch with you?
No, no, the buildings and
Are they all doing it? Is what you're saying?
the
I see.
buildings and the food and things. So it reminds me of my trips to Japan, and the photographs are interesting. Look, you and I both take pictures of slot cars for our own gratification, and it's an endless challenge to try and take them in an interesting way. I mean, otherwise, it just ends up being a front 3/4 on a track, doesn't it? Which is
I want to take issue. I'm not sure I'd do it. I don't take photos for the hell of it. I take photos to try and do something for the club, and I take photos when I'm delighted with a purchase, and I send them to you. Or indeed, I post them on Slot Forum, because recently I was delighted with a purchase. Utterly delighted. I commissioned a car. I think I mentioned it an episode or two
Tell
us again. It was a bit it was a bit risky. This dude on Instagram appeared in my feed, the way that the algorithm works. He just appeared. I think he's called, oh God, I've forgotten his name. Mark Maestro Antonio, or Mark Antonio Maestro.
It's all right. He'll write in and tell you.
He will. And he does bespoke commissions of cars, slaps some decals on, puts some clear coat on, and takes your money and sends it off. And they teased me and they taunted me, Instagram and him together. They were working in cahoots. And eventually I contacted him thinking, oh, I could have his decals and I could do that. But he doesn't sell the decals. And then I just innocently said, okay, you don't sell them. How much is a car then? Thinking it would be too expensive and I'd move on. And it was a bit expensive, yes. But I just thought, as an exercise in seeing how other people do decals, as a benchmark against my own ham-fisted efforts, I'm going to do this. And there was a Lexus RCF in the Sealmaster, who you reminded me, it's the something Sullivan.
Vassar
Sullivan. Sealmaster livery, Lexus RCF, yellow with a kind of black hexagonal pattern on it. Ordered it, paid for it, thought that was the last I'd seen of my money. Actually, he takes like a deposit when he goes and buys a white kit. And then when he's got that, and when he has painted it up and it is ready, he asks for the next bit of money. So he's not a rip-off merchant. Yeah, I should have. He's waving it at the camera, dear listener, or his diecast. I should have had it so I could wave mine back at you. It came. UPS were rubbish. UPS are rubbish. That's official, and I'm not talking utter slot. Will that get me sued? I don't know.
It was definitely you that's
UPS are rubbish.
Definitely you that said
it was me that said that. Yeah. I got evidence. They said it was coming on a Friday when it was supposed to be coming on a Monday. It didn't come on the Friday. Then on the Monday, they said, "Oh, we're delivering it Tuesday." Genius! This is what the internet was invented for.
Isn't that a Sting song?
What? This is what the internet was invented for?
No,
you're thinking of Craig David.
I was a Craig David.
Craig. Oh, old people get their pop stars confused.
It was clear.
I think the Beatles did that one.
I know. I'm sure it's a Sting song.
No, the Craig David song is like met her on Tuesday, went out on the Wednesday, something happened on Thursday, and now it's Friday. Those are the lyrics. Anyhow, back to me and my car.
Sorry,
I'm delighted with it.
I tried.
The finish is really good. It's not amateur at all. Slightly annoyed that we missed the drivers' names off the roof, which it's going to irk me every time I look at it. Irk is my word for today. But I'm delighted with it. It really is good. And one big thing about it is it's like day glow yellow. I won't miss it in the dark corners of the Ramsden Memorial.
What?
Yeah, okay, wave that. That's not the livery though, is it? Because that one hasn't got the hexagonal stuff happening on it. You can't see this, dear listener, but just let us. Oh, apart from the hexagonal stuff on his diecast car. Okay.
So, how you said that this was reasonably expensive, or you hinted that it was more. So, give us up. So, it's more than a Scalextric car.
More than one Scalextric car,
More
yes.
than a slotted car?
More than a slotted
More
car,
than a Mr. Slot Car Shadow?
which the restock hasn't sold out at Pendle. Just saying. Just saying. I've heard massive reports of issues with that car, like 2 add noisy gears, which I think is a cracking actual rate. That means it is reliable. It was €114 delivered to my door rather late by UPS, which is I think, I don't know what that equates to in the king's money, but I thought I was chuffed to bits with it, and I will have to see if he can do me a NSX in Arta livery, because that's my dream, and I can't find decals anywhere. There was a dude on Slot Forum who was going to send me some, and then he just disappeared off Slot Forum.
That's a bit dramatic, but never mind.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe he's got into something else. Well, I'm glad that
the
crucial thing is you're happy with it, whether it costs you 50 quid or 100 quid. The crucial thing is you're happy. It's a bit like, I picked up a 20 quid Ninko 911 at the swap meet, and the chap had fitted fly black wheels to it from like a 917, and it kind of
did you know that when you picked it up?
and it looked sort of right, because the right period and their Porsche wheels and stuff, but it turned out that I had in a box some of the right Ninko wheels, the sort of gold coloured BBS cross spokes, which I'd been saving for 15 years or something to try and slotize a Revel kit. Anyway, they've now been reunited with this Ninko, and so it's as it should be, and it only cost me 20 quid, and I think that's great.
You do pick up bargains quite, I mean, yeah.
You
pick up bargains.
Well, sometimes, and sometimes I don't. I took quiet delight once in a well-known eBay seller who I won't mention because it's not fair. But I always they always start their auctions low, and I kind of follow them along, and of course 9 times out of 10 they go above what I'm willing to pay. But once I got something and they sent me a note saying, "Well done, you paid less than I paid for it," so you always feel as though you're winning if that's the case.
That used to be such a thing in my already we've established dodgy memory. The 99p start price was it was the way you worked on eBay, wasn't it? But now people seem to not risk that so much. I don't see so many.
It's the reverse now. There's a price, and then you just follow it out of interest, possibly, and you get here's 5% discount, 10% discount. Take this offer. So I presume people are now putting the prices higher than they really want, because they're offering you a discount before you've even started haggling. Which,
so that I said that people don't. I have a saved seller called Triplex, who I think is a stalwart of the swap meets, and he, I do believe, does still do 99p starts, but he very rarely has anything I am particularly interested in. Though I believe he did sell recently a Van Squish JPS F1 Lotus 72. And I started following that because I was curious just to see what they went for these days. Go back, I hate the phrase, go back pre-pandemic, probably a bit beyond there as well. They used to go for like 150 quid. How much do you think you got for this one?
70.
Were you watching it as well?
I just guessed.
Oh, went for about 70. I think it went for 72. No, that's the Lotus number. I think it went for about 70, maybe 80 quid, which was interesting. Interesting. Talking of eBay, I had I was going to say to you, I mentioned it at the lunch that we had. Do we get to put that on expenses, Scott?
Yes, yeah.
Excellent. As long as people keep buying the merch, then
yeah. I mean, I think what was yesterday's lunch was quite expensive, so we probably need to sell 4 T-shirts or something.
And a mug, yeah.
No.
Yesterday, I'm going to jump around a lot here, but I didn't. You said something really? Was quite expensive. I apologise for taking us to a Michelin-starred pub. I didn't know it was that good. I said to you when I suggested that we go to it that they do a cracking, or they did a cracking Scotch egg, and God, the American listeners are going now, what in God's name is a Scotch egg? I know Scott is Scottish. Does he?
I don't
Anyhow,
lay eggs. No, I don't lay eggs. The,
golden ones.
the,
But the price of things was quite high, and I'm going to put it out there, not naming the pub, but that sticky toffee pudding was not worth £9.50 of anyone's money.
no,
I was disappointed.
it was very yeah. I mean, I could look at it that you'd made me drive for an hour and a half to some pub on the promise of heavenly Scotch eggs. There was no Scotch eggs, and
They've taken it off the menu.
And in fact, the menu was so. I got about 5 minutes before you, and I'd looked at the menu, and I looked down at the main courses and saw the first price that hit my eye was 30 quid, and I thought, oh, gulp.
Yep.
And then you came in and around. You clearly did the same thing. And,
well, I think what I did was like, where are the Scotch eggs? I want a Scotch egg.
Anyway, yeah. So talking utter slot down the pub. I think we have to.
Oh, eBay. I was going to say, I was really delighted with my recent eBay flogging off of Tat. I don't put that in the description. No! Now I've hoisted myself. No, the stuff I sell on eBay is top quality, totally top quality.
Totally top quality. Yeah.
And then I got home from our lunch.
Pedro's Motors.
And there was a message. Speed Craze Moron, obviously. That's my ID. I got home to a message from a dude saying, I haven't received anything. And it's like 2 weeks later. I know, I was a bit, I didn't quite understand because it was on a 48-hour delivery, I think. And 2 weeks later, he's getting in touch saying, hasn't been delivered. I think how long would you wait for a 48-hour delivery not to arrive before you got in touch with the seller?
Depends if I was on holiday or not.
Okay, good point, well made. Damn, didn't think of that.
What would it be, half term and all that?
Well, I'd only give it if it's going to be a 2-day delivery, I'd give it a week top whack, and then I'd get in touch with the seller. Anyhow, he's a great chap. He has to tolerate my idiocy in the messages, but Royal Mail say they've tried to deliver it, and I've asked him to go and check with the Royal Mail. So a little bit of stuff there about eBay and personal problems I have with delivering and selling stuff. Over to you, Scott. What can you save this podcast?
Save the podcast. I don't know if we could do that. I'm going to talk about something, and I'm going to come back to you because you went somewhere at the weekend, which involved old cars, but you also spotted a slot car. So I'll just collect your thoughts while I'm talking. What I built recently was not a car. It was a Carrera. It was a hospitality tower. A sort of 3-story with a pit garage below it thing that I got from my sister for my birthday. Thank you very much.
Made of plastic?
Of course. Carrera pit buildings are made of. What else would it be made of?
Well, cardboard, because you told me about the figures.
No. So the hospitality, you can look up Carrera Hospitality Tower. I've already got the pit garages with the little hospitality suites above it, and I have a nice run of those beside my fly pit lane. It's really nice. Anyway, I got this, and you stack it on top with a pit garage, 3 stories high, spiral staircases, curved glass. It's very reminiscent of the BRDC club at Silverstone. Well, sort of. But rather than give you figures, because obviously Carrera sell figures, which they'd like you to buy, they give you little printed colour cardboard stand-ups of people. So there's a bar and somebody sitting at the bar, and there's a group chatting, and there's a couple standing, and there's a guy on his own. And when you put them inside and you're just glancing through the window, it looks quite effective. So that was for the cardboard bit. But no, I built the 3-story. One slight problem, of course, is it sort of blocks your view of the track because it's quite tall. And it is one of those challenges where I love buildings, and I love the old Scalextric buildings, and the new Carrera ones are lovely as well. But as you put more and more of these things on your track, there's kind of less and less sight line. But it's not so much a problem because I'm just playing, but it is a bit of a challenge if anybody new comes along. But I'm going to, and this is a statement of intent rather than a commitment, I'm going to decorate the interior. I think some sort of flooring, because it's just white at the minute. So I've got some sort of fake carpet tiling and little chairs or something. So I'm on the lookout on eBay for old Britain's things. That's one search 1/32 stuff. It's amazing what you get. I once bought a castle, a 1/32 castle, which I've never taken out of the box. But that's
Sorry. You're proud of the fact you bought it. Oh, you're never taking it out of the box. No, we need an intervention there.
Tell us about your visit at the weekend then.
Oh no, I want to hang on. You don't just get to describe your Carrera hospitality cardboard figures, stuff like that. I was going to say, you said something about detailing it. That is part of the joy. Oh, you're waving the cardboard people at me now. We'll take a photo and put it on the YouTube version. Part of the joy is getting one of those figures, getting one of those buildings and sort of super detailing it, isn't it? That's what the trained people would call it, super detailing, I think, and weathering it and making it look nice. In my loft, because I did open the box, is a Carrera grandstand, a small one. I think it's sort of modelled on Barcelona, the stadia, the grandstands they have there. He's waving his arms, dear listener. Very curvy, and I like the look of them. But anytime I've ever put it on a track, beside a track, it's looked completely lost and completely wrong because I don't have the scale, I suppose, of track. But every now and then you see on Instagram or somewhere, there's a who is it? There's Fantastic Scalextric, I think is the account, and they just daily put photos up of other people's tracks, and every now and then there'll be somebody, some lucky sod, who's got a line of 4 or 5 of these things, and they do look pretty impressive, particularly if you put some cardboard or otherwise figures on them and you just dirty them up a bit so the concrete looks a bit more realistic. I find a joy in the scenery as much as a joy in the cars and the tracks.
I'm glad you said that, because I do, but I think that's where there's a luxury that comes from having a permanent setup like I've got, so I can put stuff out and leave it. If you're having to build a track on the living room floor every bank holiday weekend, then it's not so easy. But it is one of the joys. Yeah, it is one of the joys. And I think I've said before, I think the subliminal brainwashing of those old Scalextric catalogues where they had the pit lane and all the buildings and everything, and especially the painted ones with the sort of exaggerated perspective, it just looked so bloody good that buying them to try and recreate this sort of sensation. And there's an issue, I think, because Scalextric's track is effectively, if you scaled it up, it wouldn't even be a go-kart track. I mean, it's far too tight and twisty for that. So when you put scale buildings and people beside it, you kind of emphasize that the track is not the right scale. And so there's a bit of a double-edged sword. So I've got a modern pit lane which I kind of photograph without trying to show anything else, and I've got an old pit lane which I photograph without trying to show anything else, and various bits and pieces, so that, because if you take an overall picture, it just looks like a complete mess, but if you can zoom in, it's sometimes quite effective.
I think they knew what they were doing with those adverts many years ago. They were just planting the seed, and it was a long burn because they had to wait till we got the disposable income as older gits before we could buy them. I like some of the American routed tracks that that man whose name I got wrong, Luff, made himself and inspired in others. Some of the American ones where they routed 3-laners. The 3-laner ones tend to give a bit more space to the scenery and stuff, and they tend to be the most effective ones, I think, because they have I'm thinking of a couple. They have a good deal of runoff in the corners and stuff, and they look the business.
Are you talking about slot mods? They tend to be 3-lane tracks that they make.
I have no idea what you mean. Slot mods?
You must have heard of slot mods. No. You need to go.
You mentioned.
Do you remember
earlier?
Remember recently the track that was built inside a Gulf 917?
Oh, I know slot mods. Yeah. Idiot.
Yeah. So they do that.
No, I was referring to Luff. I think the website's gone now, but he inspired a generation. Not with his "I have a dream" speech, but with his "I've got a router" speech, or rather his "I've got a router" videos. And there used to be quite a few that I just looked at and got all misty-eyed and jealous
Okay,
over.
well, I've got.
Anyway, you talked of perspective. Did we ever mention um, uh, Dave Kennedy's video where he unboxed one of the new resin control tower thingies from Scalextric? And I messaged you and said, "What's going wrong here?" Because he appears to be sitting on the floor in front of a table, and the camera's wide angle and in front of him, and he ends up looking really small, and the control tower ends up looking massive. I mean, he's complaining about the weight of it all the way through the unboxing, or complaining, commenting on it, and then it amused the hell out of my tiny little mind that Dave appeared to be really small at the back of this table with this massive control tower in front
Well,
of him.
maybe he was going for a lot.
That's perspective for
Yeah,
you.
maybe he was going for a Lord of the Rings kind of effect. Trying to.
Don't know. Anywho, yeah, Sunday I went to Bicester, which is how the American listeners would pronounce it.
Having encouraged you to talk about that, can I pause you just for a second, because this is such a good moment.
What?
It's such a good moment to recommend to you and the listeners that they go on YouTube and they search for LK Lunch King as a channel. LK Lunch King. It's an American guy who normally does reviews of where he goes for lunch, but his uncle has got the most amazing slot car track in his basement.
Yep.
And the reason I mention
it's massive,
and he made his own sort of digital solution or multi-lane solution.
Yeah.
And the reason he did it is he wanted multiple cars, 6 cars, but he didn't like the lack of scale effect of a wide track. He wanted a narrow track that looked realistic. And he developed this AC system, basically, so that it can run multiple cars on one lane. But the track, it's all self-built. It's beautiful. I mean, definitely worth getting yourself a couple of cups of tea and a biscuit and sitting and watching them. So, LK Lunch King.
I did not know that that was I've seen it. I didn't know the name of the account or the real premise for it, taking photos of your lunch. No. These people.
Well,
what are they like?
It's an interesting thing, because that's what he set his channel up for. And the lunch videos get a few hundred views. The videos of his uncle's slot car track get 1 million. So, there you go.
Oh, the irony.
Oh, the irony. Anyway, you went to Bicester.
Did I? Yes, I did. I went to Bicester Scramble again because I love it, and it's just down the road from me, which is this thing on an old Second World War air station with lots of original buildings. It's called Bicester Heritage is the name of the site, and they have lots of original buildings, hangars, a control tower, which looks very much like the Airfix kit one in 1/72nd scale that probably you have built. Yeah, I don't think I ever did build that one, but and they've become like a motor hub, and they throw open the doors 3, 4, 5 times a year. You pay your money, you go along, and you park your car, and then people almost spend as much time walking around the car park to see the interesting, weird, and wonderful cars that are parked up as they do going into the grounds where the buildings and the bunkers and the officers' mess buildings are, where they will invite and park up a whole load of really interesting cars. And I'm waxing more lyrical about that than I am slot cars, aren't I? There was a slot car. For the first time, I saw a slot car set up there. I think it's called Havenwood Raceway. They were there running some kind of little competition so that to raise money for one of the motorsport charities. I didn't have a go before you ask because it was digital, and that's just wrong.
Mission Motorsport,
and plus, I probably couldn't do it.
I think it was on behalf
Mission Motorsport. That would be it. Yeah, and it was interesting to see because I've often thought about trying to promote the Oxford Club via them, and I have been in touch with them, but it's a little tricky because they are a fully commercial enterprise. But I had a great time. I sent you some photos. I love Bicester Scramble, and it was the first time I got to park with the Panzer in the pre-90s section, because normally I have to park with the ordinary cars. But this time I went in Das Panzer and parked it up. And then there was a whole Mercedes. There was quite a few Mercedes kicking around, which is, I was hoping to be the only one. There was a beautiful 2.3, a 280 CE 2.3, absolutely minter. Loved it. Sorry, digression.
You're lost on a tiny reverie there. There isn't a slot car model of that car, is there? I don't think.
No, and rightly so, because it's 2 tons of heavy metal that doesn't particularly go very fast, and I don't believe anyone raced them. Did I send you a picture? I did send you a picture of the red AMG that Carrera have made, cornering hard somewhere. I don't know if it's Nürburgring or what, but it's the front left it looks like it's
waggling in the
3
air.
feet off the ground.
Yeah.
It's fantastic shot. God, the man who's driving that like that had some cojones, didn't he? I mean, what was it? 6 liters. That thing's moving, and it's only got 3 wheels on the tarmac. Brilliant.
It's a beast. Yeah. Going back to road cars as slot cars, though. So slot car models of road cars. I think that's a subject that's worth kind of exploring, because obviously they get made, and not just, they're fairly consistently getting made, and not just historic ones. And over the time, I've managed to, and I normally I think, oh no, I only racing cars, but guddling through my boxes, I found I've got quite a few.
Whoa! Stop doing what through your boxes?
Guddling. You know what guddling is, don't you?
No, is that because you're from a foreign country? You use different words.
It's guddling is what you do when you put your hands in the river and you're standing quietly, and you get a fish comes along, and you gently kind of just tickle it, and then you
tickle the fish.
Then it's guddling. That's
guddling.
Guddling.
There's no guddling.
There's no R in it. Guddling.
Oh, guddling. Which is reminding me, I do want to buy some iron brew. I want to get some iron brew and drink it because it's made from Garders. I love that advertising. Sorry, digression.
It works.
You were tickling a fish, Scott.
No, I was digging out slot cars, and these were non-racing cars, and I was running them around the track, and I was having fun, which I thought, that's the thing of these. They're lovely models, and they're just as credible as you could race them, I suppose. But they're nice, and they've got their place in the world. No, you don't.
No, they haven't.
No, okay.
No, they haven't. No. I am, as much as I hate golf liveries, I hate fantasy liveries, and I hate the basic road car. What is the point in the basic road car?
Well,
there is no point.
Could you and I think, are unlikely to ever to be able to afford, let's say, a Lamborghini Countach.
Well, you say that.
Well, I would, in which case,
I do the Euro Millions.
In which case, lunch is definitely on you to extent. But the disability, it's one step up from a diecast. So you buy a diecast model, a nice model of a car that you like for whatever reason, the shape, the sculpture of it, but you can put it on the track and drive it round. Surely that is the whole essence of a slot car. A model car that you can drive round.
Yes. And then as you drive it, so do you drive it around at pretend 30 miles an hour? No, you try and go fast. And then as you go fast, you realize that you are doing something called racing. And for that, you really need a racing car with a correct racing livery. Road cars, no. This is why Auto Art didn't stay the course, because they didn't have enough racing liveries.
Okay, well, they came from being a diecast company, so I can understand.
I know, and they thought they knew it all, and they were proved wrong by the boys at Margate who did them over.
Maybe not. You make that sound like the plot of an upcoming B movie on Netflix. The Slot Wars.
I was going to say, streaming on Netflix.
Pretentious upstarts seen off by the boys from Margate.
The boys from Margate. That sounds like a gang of people who go around searching for Nazis or something.
Well, they'll be looking for you because you still owe them money, and so you be careful.
Yeah,
be careful.
I wonder if he's going to be at. Remind me before I go to Gaydon that I need to have at least £3 in my pocket
and glasses. And the torch.
and glasses and a 9-volt battery. I'm a pit box because I'm racing.
You're racing. So, yes, people, if you want to...
Mm.
we started the show speculating that Pedro might not be real and that I'm just some sort of elaborate ventriloquist. But he is real. And if you want to see the man in action...
Oh, no. Don't encourage... No! Oh, God. There goes my anonymity. I don't want people going, is that
It's
him?
him.
He's shorter than I thought.
Well, you're going to be wearing the merch, aren't you? Surely.
A good point.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Wearing merch and platform shoes.
I don't.
And when I said I'm racing again, what I really should have said is I'm making up the numbers.
Yeah. You see that. You've been... I'll bet you're out in the shed fettling your... What's it?
Oh, my
shaving
God.
your chassis.
Sean has made so much money out of me these last few weeks because I've been putting in almost a regular order for hubs and tyres and bushings and all these polycarb. But I reckon the boys in Lancashire go, look, there's another order from him. He's buying more. He can't get it right, so he's buying more. Apologies to Sean for the really rubbish.
That's so wonderful. Yeah, that's.
I love you, boys, dearly.
Anyway, yeah.
But as we speak, there is another order. There genuinely is another order. It's my third order of hubs, tires, and other bits and bobs.
How many? How many cars are you going to be racing?
This is the ridiculous thing. All this is just to try and get me Ferrari, and remember, I don't like Ferraris, into some kind of decent form. Because I went and bought one for the event. I've got two polycars. My Lotus 72 has never run particularly well. My March is a beast. But I thought, I don't know, I just thought I wanted to run something different. And it was an excuse to buy another car, really, wasn't it? And I don't like Ferraris, so I bought a Ferrari. But I didn't realise the Polycar Ferrari, was it 312B? The one I've got, Andretti's one, has smaller hubs than the others. And I didn't realise that at the time, and it's causing me some consternation, and it's causing some orders to Sean. So Sean's happy as Larry.
But so it's one car, which last time I checked had 4 wheels. Only two of which touch the track.
Yes.
And how many hubs have you bought?
I'm probably onto my third set of hubs now.
Only because 12 hubs.
No, 2. Only because it's complicated. It sounds ridiculous, but it is more complicated than that. I like having a spare set of hubs kicking around the place. Who doesn't? There's a t-shirt legend. Let me write that down.
At home with Pedro, you can just see the pull quote on the page. I like to have a spare set of hubs around the place.
When my cleaner comes in, she always tucks.
Oh, God, you've got a cleaner! You definitely can pay for lunch the next time, yeah.
I'm joking. I haven't got a cleaner. That was just, I was painting a picture, Scott. I was painting a picture. I haven't got a cleaner. Jesus, look at the state of my house. I haven't got a cleaner. What was I going to say? I wanted a spare axle because I figured I needed one. I wanted spare bushings because I figured I needed one.
There's a risk you're going to break them on the race. How tough is this track?
No, I just wanted to be prepared, Scott. I'm not taking this lightheartedly. I'm as serious as cancer when I say I'm going to rhythm is a dancer. No, I'm serious about this. I'm aiming for a podium.
Well,
or a wooden spoon.
So, as we said, if you want to see a man cry because he spent so much money on hubs, and still not win the race, go along to Gaydon and the UK Slot Car Festival in the 22nd of May, I think it is it? 21st? Something like
Could be.
Something like that. Which leads me to mention my next competitive outing, I think, which is going to be...
Oh, more clubbing for you.
At the Abergavenny Slot Rally Club, which is down in Abergavenny, funnily enough. And on the 4th of June, they're going to be having one of their slot rallies. Now, I've been down there and done slot rallies with those guys for a long time. I actually can't remember the first one I went to. It's got to be I'm going to say it might even be 20 years ago, because it was on the way back from one of their events that we hatched the plot of having Slot Rally GB, and eventually that led to the event at Epsom and all that sort of thing. So these guys have been doing slot rallies for ages, and it's always great fun. I never win. There are various classes for different kinds of cars. There are always people who go very, very fast. That's great. I tend to take something I think is going to be interesting, like a TR7.
That's the spirit. That's the spirit.
Well, yeah. It's kind of a way of going, well, I'm not going to win. So if I take my SRC Lancia, I'll probably just break it and I won't win. Whereas if I take my, what's the most ridiculous car I've ever taken? I can't remember. It's something that was clearly too slow. But I say a TR7 is an unmodified one. Anyway, it's open for entries. It's only £4 per car, and it's classics or 80s and 90s, i.e. the kind of Group B stuff, or modern rally cars. So you can enter up to 4 cars. There's multiple stages, and you go around with a group of people and you drive the stages multiple times, just like a real rally. You keep track of your times, and they add them all up. And there's even bacon sandwiches at the beginning. So it's proper good fun. And you've said
rally.
And you said you won't come. So I'm disappointed in that, but I'm going. The only thing that's missing is the rain and the mud, frankly. I mean, it's in Wales, but, there's no rain and mud. No, good fun. I'm looking forward to that. And I haven't bought any spare hubs, axles, or anything else.
Amateur.
I'll take that as a compliment.
I'm all in favour of just racing for the fun of it and the spirit. I think I may have said before, but I quite frequently put on cars on the grid at Oxford that I like. Occasionally I'll get all uber competitive, but most of the time I'm putting on cars I like. So in the Sideways Group 5, I'll put on, I know it's not uber competitive, but I'll put on, it can be actually, I'll put on my Celica or my Skyline. My Skyline's quite competitive actually.
Just for fun, I put on my very competitive cars.
Well, they've been through the Race Tuned by Pedro program, and they're pretty good.
Is that a sticker? Oh, have you got a sticker saying that on the chassis on the bottom?
I should do. Shouldn't
you should
I?
definitely do.
Oh yeah, like the Sechi cars that we had.
Well, not only that.
What did they say? Handmade.
Not only that, though. My good friend Gareth Jex, who the aforementioned slot rally, etc., he gave up slot cars a few years ago, and he sold his entire collection. And I still see some of the cars at swap meets. You pick it up and turn it over, and it's got one of his stickers on the underside. So
he sold his entire collection. That was a proper revelation moment he had, wasn't it? I mean, he didn't hang on to anything.
Wow!
And he must have had a bloody good collection, I would guess.
He did.
Speculating wildly.
He did. Yeah. And I acquired a few of them before they entered into the commercial realm, as it were. But yeah, lots of good stuff. But it's fun to see them, and you kind of pick a car up on a stand, and it's got So I think, well, I know that was Gareth's, and it went to Scale Models, and it's been sold from there, and then some of the other trader has got it. So these things are sort of tracking about.
But we mentioned that, didn't we, in an early episode? Because we had a little chat with Mark in the canteen, and he said how it was amusing that cars did the rounds and went from dealer to dealer via punters, presumably. Punter buys it from, let's say, Phil Smith, give him another shout out, and has it for a wee while, and then sells it on to Mark Scale, and then maybe it goes back into Phil Smith. I like the idea that these cars are circulating, being enjoyed, and maybe not being enjoyed if they're being sold that often, but they're circulating within the
It's just like the real classic car movement. These things get bought and sold all the time. Anyway, before we get too nostalgic about all that, so events coming up: Slot Car Festival, Abergavenny Rally. If you fancy going to either of them, look them up on the website and do come along. Well, that's it for another episode of our favourite podcast. I won't claim that it's anyone else's favourite podcast, but it's definitely our favourite podcast. I'm off to check the post for my latest purchase. I was hoping it would arrive in the middle of the show with a little doorbell from the...
Do we get any clues?
It's green.
Oh my God, no, you haven't bought what you said you needed to buy from German manufacturer with multiple wheels.
No, not yet. It's not
No.
available
Okay.
yet. It's not available
Right.
yet.
Oh, is it not? I thought it was. I saw some photos on the
There was a picture on
gram. I
Instagram,
thought it
but
must be out.
we're talking about the race truck from Carrera, and one of the
Noble Order of the Controller.
Noble
Is
of
that
the
what it
Controller.
is?
There's one which is British Racing Green with a Union Jack all over the rear wing, and it's called something like Ironclad or something. I can't remember now what the name. Anyway, it's very, very British, and I want one when it comes out. So, but no, it's not that. It's not yet.
Is it very British? It's not very. It's painted and it's decorated very, very British, but it looks nothing like a British thing. It's got 6 wheels. It's got a very imaginative pseudo-American look to it, and a massive rear wing. No, it's not British.
Well, clearly it's not British. It's made by an Austrian company, and it's a fantasy vehicle. But it's green.
Yeah,
It's green, and it's got a Union Jack on it. Can you get with the program? Right.
Sorry.
Don't anybody who wants to make a joke about the royal family being German, yawn. Anyway, that's what I so I'm going to check whether but no, it's not that. It is a Carrera that I'm waiting for, and it is green.
Oh,
and
okay. Well, I'm intrigued.
And you don't like them, but that doesn't really matter.
Don't tell us, Scott. Don't tell us what it is, because now what we do is we hook the listeners in, and they have to listen to episode 19 to find out what you bought. They know what I bought, hubs, but they don't know. So they have to listen to episode 19. This is the way we're going wrong. We're not hooking people.
This is
with the whole next time out.
This is the way
on Talking Us.
Anyway, that's for next time. This time, thanks for listening, everybody. And I'm hoping there's more than one.
Listening to us.
Yes.
Oh, have we supposed to be ended?
That was your cue to say goodbye. Do you know that thing? You know how I write that script in that running order, and then you don't read it, do you?
And then I ignore it. Well, I
say goodbye, Pedro.
I'd like to say goodbye, Pedro. Ow! Just hit my. Hang on. Soz. It's hay fever. Apologies. Really? Oh, I recorded that as well. That's going on at the end.
Take 2.